how to properly investigate your beliefs so you can eventually change them and successfully change them. So I'll give you the practical aspect of that. But before that, I'm going to give you a little bit of neuroscientific theory so you can understand why changing your beliefs is actually really important to investigate. Not necessarily to change straight away, because some of the beliefs maybe that you are holding are actually propelling your life forward. So the process of investigating and changing your beliefs is it's a therapeutic process of learning and unlearning at the same time. So multitasking, a bit of a multitasking, which will cost you to use way more energy, because when you are becoming self-aware, this is a skill. Self-awareness is a skill that requires you to take a step back when other people will be reacting. You're using energy to take a step back. You have to pause yourself when the immediate impulse is to react. That is using your energy, and of course, because it's not yet automatic. But when that skill of self-awareness becomes automatic, then you can change a lot of things about yourself, because again, neuroplasticity, neuroscience proves that it's perfectly viable, it's perfectly achievable for everyone. Everyone, there's no exception. If you're a human being, there is nothing that you cannot change about yourself. So that's why we have those brains that are flexible and plastic, quote unquote, and that's why we have the nervous system that can adjust and adapt to different situations. So, like I said, therapy, from my perspective, it is a learning and unlearning process. It is building skills that you probably haven't been taught before. So, think of your belief system and the beliefs that you are holding about yourself and about the world and about other people as almost wearing a pair of glasses all the time. So you might have, let's say, a pink glasses. Someone else can have gray. Someone else can have it. So people will have different colors, of course. I'm making it visual, but of course, the beliefs are more embodied rather than visual only, because your beliefs are impacting your perception. They are impacting the way you perceive yourself, the way you perceive the world, and the way you perceive and interpret other people's behavior towards you. So this is not a small thing. This is basically your beliefs are shaping your experience of this life. So the question is not to think of, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? What else I need to fix? No, the question is, what has my brain learned about myself, about the world, about other people that I actually would like to change, because I would like to change my experience that I'm having in this life. Sorry, there's, I think, a helicopter here, so bear with me. So investigating your beliefs is a psychological skills that you would like to definitely acquire if you want to grow, if you want to change. Yes? So think about it, that a lot of your decisions and a lot of your decisions, the way you operate in this world, it's not really based on logic, but it's rooted in the belief system that you are holding about yourself, like I said. So let's say there will be two people that receive feedback from a boss. There'll be one person who just think, okay, this is actually useful, I'm gonna improve next time, thank you, bye, that's it, and they just get on with the rest of the day. The other person can be deeply triggered by that feedback and not be able to stop thinking about it for the next week. Will they have different lives? Of course. Because that trigger, that simple fact of being activated and not being able to step outside of the activation and see the situation for what it is, it's going to impact your whole week and the way you are taking the decisions in your life. So one situation, one event, you have two different interpretations, and you can see the consequences of these interpretations. So the neuroscience is showing us that our brains are constantly making predictions about the world, about ourselves, about what's happening, and about other people's behavior. So it's like, based on your prior experience, your brain is like, okay, what is most likely to happen next? So let's say if you have a prior experience of, let's say, rejection, your brain will be constantly interpreting neutral sometimes situations, so like I said, the feedback from a boss, as a rejection of you, even though it is a feedback, and it could be, majority of the cases will be from a perspective that they want you to grow, they want you to improve based on the mistake that you made. And because you're a human being, you will be making mistakes. Just like I make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes. And that is fine. That is normal. That is part of being human, and part of the learning and growing, the growth process. So the brain does not actually learn from facts, but it learns from expectations. So let's say, like I said, if you had, let's say, trauma in childhood, or you had maybe emotionally unavailable parent, or the parent who had been struggling with self-esteem, they had modeled a certain behavior, and you, as on the receiving end of that behavior of a person, let's say, who is struggling with their self-esteem, you will adopt a certain behaviors yourself as a child of that parent. And then you're learning expectations, like, okay, so let's say, to be loved and to be accepted, because that was the experience that I had with mommy or daddy or whoever was your caretaker, I have to be perfect. I cannot make mistakes. I am not important. My needs don't even matter. I don't even know my needs. So if that was your experience, and also, just to say one thing, it's not only about the parents, because it's almost like there's too much blame in the whole, I would say, like a therapeutic industry on the parents. And I think I had been also kind of guilty of that, because when you think about childhood, you naturally think of parents, but you can also have kindergarten, school system, you have grandparents, you have your peer group, you have the neighborhood, you have the culture. So you have all these factors that will be contributing to your perception of the world. So, let's take the parents off the hook as well, because they are only part of that whole ecosystem that you had been brewed in, so to speak. Yes, like brewing, I mean. So all these things that you acquire in your childhood from all these different ecosystems that you had been surrounded by, these are not objective truths. They're not. They basically, it's almost like this is the lottery that you won, or maybe didn't win, depending on where you had been brought up in. And you had to adapt, you had to survive in order to survive and to adapt. We have to do that as little tiny human beings. So later in life, your brain will be making certain predictions based on these experiences that you had prior to that. So I want you to really take a step back and think of your belief system as not something to judge, but something to be curious about. And let's start now unpacking this. So that's the theory. Now let's get into the practice. So first thing, I would like you to write these 3 sentences. I am, other people are, the world is. Just write whatever comes to your mind first. Write it down. So complete these sentences, and you can write, a paragraph, 2 paragraphs, you can write essays on all 3. It doesn't matter, but do some proper, honest reflection, self-reflection. Don't edit anything, because these automatic responses, they will just reveal the beliefs that you are actually holding, and they are operating your behavior in the background, like behind the curtains. Once you know that, you can look at them and you can see, whoa, yeah? Could be good, bad, maybe a little bit of a mix. But this is what it is. This is the truth. Now you see the subjective truth that you are operating from. Now that you see it, you're going to be able to change it, but not with force, but with compassion and with curiosity. So the next step is for you to look at what events and what situation had been emotionally charged for you this last week. Think about a strong emotional reaction, and sometimes, not even doesn't have to be strong, but something that actually activated you. Pause and ask yourself, what would I have to believe to be true for this reaction to make perfect sense? So you look at the reaction and you think, okay, why did I respond to that in that particular way? So I believe something about myself, therefore that reaction makes perfect sense. Again, honesty. And now I want you to look at, so let's say, let's get on with this event, let's say, of, I don't know, having a feedback from a boss, receiving a feedback from a boss. So you can see, okay, I had a really big reaction to that lasted, however long. Okay, what do I have to believe about myself for that reaction of just receiving a feedback from the boss, to be true? Maybe I cannot make mistakes. I'm not allowed to make mistakes. Now, I want you to then, that's the next step, to challenge your own assumptions. So look at, okay, actually, what are mistakes? What is the definition of the mistake? And then you got to define it for yourself. Because the mistakes will always going to be made when you are learning something new. So if you're avoiding mistakes, you're avoiding the work. You cannot grow without making a mistake. So it's not about forcing positive thinking. No, it's bringing in the evidence, the actual evidence that the brain will be like, yeah, actually, that does make sense. If I'm not gonna fail, if I'm not gonna make a mistake, then how can I actually learn? Because that part of learning, we all know, is to fall sometimes, is to fail, is to make a mistake. And this is where the next step comes in, because you are replacing all the judgment with the curiosity and compassion, and not the compassion of the fake, softy, therapeutic, oh, it's fine for you to make one mistake hundreds of times. No, you can make a mistake and then look at, let's say, your past experience. And if you made that mistake 1,000 times already, then I'm sorry, my love, but you gotta do something to change that. Because otherwise, if you're gonna be just like, saying like, yeah, it's fine, that's not true compassion. Your friends, the true friends, will always going to point out for you the things that maybe can be a bit uncomfortable. Because your friends, your true friends, they always want you to grow. That's it. So softness and kindness, but not a toxic type that everything that you do is almost like it's a people pleasing yourself. That's not gonna work, because then you're never gonna move forward. If you made the same mistake millions of times before, well, now is the right time to actually start changing your actual behavior. So core beliefs, to sum up, they are really powerful. If you're not gonna investigate them, your life gonna be literally, on repeat, just with different characters and a different setting. So the goal is not to really replace one rigid belief with another, but actually to become more flexible, more pliable. It's to bring in the awareness, and awareness always brings a choice of how to respond differently. So I trust that was helpful. If you want to book a session with me, you've got the links down below. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe, hype, whatever is there that you could do to help this channel to grow. And as much also as I appreciate, or maybe not even appreciate, the offers from the SEO people, please stop sending me the emails about the offers. I am not interested in any SEO. That's it. So that's the message for you guys. Otherwise, to those people who are actually watching this channel because they want to learn and grow, carry on. Bye-bye.